Hi, today we're going to be installing the 12-volt solutions remote start on 2012 Toyota Sienna Limited. The remote start is a Toyo 2-2.1 16 pin. We're going to open the box. We just got the Scan Me sticker that holds the lead in place, and opening the box, it shows the remote start unit. It comes in a static-free type bag to protect it from any static or electric shock interference. And in the box comes with foam padding to keep everything secure, and all the components of the box, the cables, zip ties, paperwork, instructions, the harness. So we took every component out of the Ziploc bag, and as you can tell, we have the remote start unit is in the static free bag that says the warning sign. Warning sticker that should be installed in the engine bay of the vehicle just to alert mechanics or any technician working on the car that the car has a remote start unit installed on it. The wire harness, as you can tell, is very well packed, very well put together, very nicely untied, and zip ties sufficient to get the job done, and some paperwork that has to do with the instructions. And in case that when you do the installation you have the red 7 flashes, then it tells you what to do in that case. I want to talk a little bit about the harness that you'll get. This is an OVD2 connector, male and female. Then the harness, this is the one, how it's all tied and wound, very nicely done. These are blue and red plugs go into the remote start unit. This is the on-off switch. I'm gonna switch it to off now. Plug here, same deal. You got male and female ports for the BCM connector. It's a 30-pin BCM connector. One thing I want to point out, if you can see inside the male portion of this harness, is that it has those little tiny pins. Be extremely careful when plugging the factory connector into the harness, because those pins are very easy to bend, and will cause you major trouble if you bend them. And last but not least, you're going to see that the wire harness has this long line, and then another connector has a lesser number of pins. It's 7 pins. This connector is called the SLP connector. This is the only connector that you need to route all the way up to the steering column in the vehicle. These are some of the tools you might need to get the job done. The pliers are not because are needed for the installation of the harness itself. I use the pliers just to nip the zip ties. Then you have little pry tools and a Phillips screwdriver and a number 10 socket type screwdriver to remove some of the bolts. Okay, to remove the steering wheel column shroud, which is this component back here, you only need to remove the bottom half of it. To remove it, you basically unlock the vehicle, and that reveals 2 Phillips screws that are located right behind the steering wheel itself. There's one on the left hand side. There's another one exactly the same location but on the right hand side. I was going to mention that to remove the bottom shroud of the steering wheel cover, one thing that will help you do it a little bit easier is after you remove the 2 Phillips screws located right back here, you press into the piece itself, and that will help it release from the latches. Okay, to remove this cover, what we need to do is we need to pry up this foot cover, basically pry it out and up. Then that should give you enough space to remove this one, which you pry it outward. This is the metric screw to remove this cover up here. Okay, this is a cover. Remove it. Just pull outward on it, and then you can probably let it rest with the cables. You see these pink tabs, those are the ones that are the latches that holds it in place. I had already removed the two metric screws, one on the corner there, the other one on the corner back down here, knee or leg area airbag. So right underneath that you got your OBD2 connector. It's that white connector right in the middle of the screen right now. That's your OBD2 connector. That's one of the three connections that we need to do with this installation. The other one, the BCM connector, is this middle one right here. So you have three from the top down. 1, 2, 3 is number 2, right in the middle of the module there. Then the other connector is right underneath the steering wheel, and is that black cable. There's this big metal piece right underneath the steering wheel, and it's basically this one right here. This black cable, you detach that, that's where you're gonna plug your harness, that longest wire with the connector, and that's where it goes. Begin the installation. We're gonna put the corresponding blue clip or harness from the harness, and then the red one on each corresponding location on the remote start unit. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, one thing I always do with every remote start installation is that I do what I will call a mock layout. It's basically where eventually I will put the unit. I want to make sure that my harness can run through the system and get on the right place. I have the unit, like I said, just mock place over here. Here's a switch. Then I routed the connectors through different areas here on my dash to each place that it's gonna go. The OBD2 connector will go down here, right underneath the airbag. The BCM connector goes right up here. It's just hanging right now, but eventually I can route it up here. And then I routed the SLP connector right behind the metal frame here. It's coming up out from top of the airbag, and eventually it will go right back here. So like I said, I just make sure that you have enough space that you can do all the connections from whenever you want to put your remote start unit, so you don't have the cables rubbing against metal or something. Be careful with these metal pieces here. They are sharp. That's what the zip ties are for in the packet. It's just to make sure you can tie them securely to other existing harnesses away from metal surfaces. Okay, I'm going to start by installing the OBD2 connector to the factory. This is the factory OBD2 connector. So basically it goes in place and it clicks. You want to hear that click. And now I'm going to install the 12-volt Solutions remote start OBD2 connector where the factory connector was located. That's a 12-volt Solutions OBD2 connector after I installed the factory on the other port of the harness. Okay, now we're gonna install the SLP connector from the 12-volt Solutions packet into or harness into the vehicle, removing the factory one. All these connectors have a little latch. This one is on the front side here. Press on the latch, the connector comes out loose. Then you put the factory connector into the 12-volt Solutions harness, and then you plug the harness back where the factory connector was. You want to hear those clicks. Use a zip tie and then route it through the wires on the harnesses, right in the middle, in between the wires. You route the zip tie through, across, over. Basically you're creating a loop around the connector and tie it up. That's going to prevent this from coming loose whatsoever. So it's just an extra precaution. It's worth having. Okay, we're going to be doing the installation of the BCM connector to the factory port here. I'm going to be detaching the factory BCM on the video is masked by the dash, and I apologize. I wanted to keep the camera as steady as possible. So there's 3 plugs. 1, 2, 3. The module is like colored black here. It's surrounded by 2 modules. You want the plug number 2 from the top down. That's your BCM connection. Is that middle plug there. That's the one we're going to be removing, installing into the 12-volt solutions harness, and then installing the 12-volt solutions harness into the factory port for that module. It has a little latch. You press on it and pull backwards, and this is that one that we have to be very careful on. It has those pins on it, very skinny pins. You can probably see them there. Just be very careful with those, not to mess them up. We have the port 12-volt solutions. I'm gonna install this on the port in there. I don't know if you were able to hear that click. You want to hear that click. And then I'm going to now install the factory BCM into the 12-volt solutions harness. Just make sure it's all very straight. Don't press hard on it or nothing. Just let it slide in. It'll find its way. There you go. Just heard that click in. So now I know I've done this part. All connections have been completed. We're gonna go into the programming of the module, and the steps are simple. Make sure the switch is off. The module box has a little button on the side here, this little round button where my thumb is. You're gonna press on that, and then you're gonna switch the unit on. There's gonna be a yellow light, orange, yellow, then it's gonna turn off. I'm gonna let go. It's now red. So you press on the side button, you let go. Once it turns red, you come to the car stop start button. You press that button twice. 1, 2. See that green light? That's telling me that the module is recognizing the key. When the green light turns off, that means that you're done. The module is programmed. We're gonna test it for the first time. In order to activate the remote start, what you need to press is the lock button 3 times. The car is gonna signal back to you with 2 beeps telling you that the remote start is gonna kick in and start the vehicle. 1, 2, 3. That's it. We have installed the 12-volt solutions remote start on the 2012 Toyota Sienna Limited. To show the remote start off, basically press 3 times again on the lock button. 1, 2, 3. Shuts it off. Another thing to talk about is that the remote start will not function or will shut off as soon as the door is open. So all doors, a real latch has to be closed in order for the remote start to work. As soon as you open the door, the remote start will shut the engine off. Just wanted to tell people that literally it is a plug and play unit. Thank you.